So the other day something interesting happened that has never happened in the 7-ish years that I've been uploading videos here on YouTube. Another God of War YouTuber straight up predicted a theory video I was going to make and then made a video himself. A few days ago, my good friend God of War Geek uploaded a video called Tyr from Another Land ? God of War Theory. And if you guys remember, prior to him uploading this video, I said this in a stream. But anyway, I wanted to say something to you guys, and I'm not trying to hype you guys up, but I think I discovered something really cool about Tyr. I'm pretty sure I've discovered something. I'm not gonna say what it is, because I need to double check, but I saw something on YouTube. Again, I'm not gonna say what it was, and I'm like, oh, I think I know what Corey's doing. So yes, I was working on this big Tyr video, and this was pretty much it. Now, if God of War Geek did a video on this already, why am I making this video then? I'm making this video because while both God of War Geek and I use the same source to form a theory, we reach very different conclusions. And I still think mine is a pretty interesting theory, so I wanted to share it with you guys. But with that said though, make sure to check out God of War Geek's video, as I think it's a really good one. So with that out of the way, let's get into the video.
What if there was someone who could help us?
You mean Tyr, the old god of war in these lands, who is dead?
Hey, how's it going guys? Kaptain Kuba here, and welcome to another Tyr video. As many of you guys know, Tyr is going to be a new prominent character in God of War Ragnarok. Not much is known about this character. In fact, a lot of God of War 2018 fans thought the Norse God of War was dead. But once we saw the trailer, we saw that this was the other way around. Tyr was very much alive, kept a prisoner either in Svartalfheim or Asgard, we're not very sure yet. And while this period in his life is very interesting, I wanted to focus on the very beginning, his origin stories. And by now you're probably saying, Kaptain Kuba, what do you mean about origin stories? He is clearly the son of Odin, there's not much to know. Well, that's actually not the case. Experts in Norse mythology have three competing theories regarding the origin of Tyr. The first one is that he is indeed the son of Odin. The other one is that he's the son of Hymir the Giant. And the last theory is the least known one. The theory that says that Tyr was the first Norse god to ever exist, even before Odin, making him the first ruler of the Norse pantheon. If you don't believe me, here's Norse specialist Dr. Jackson Crawford talking about this competing theory.
What if there was someone who could help us?
You mean Tyr, the old god of war in these lands?
I think it's interesting that Tyr is called the old god of war. I think potentially what this is being sourced from is a very popular idea that Tyr was the original head of the Norse pantheon of gods and that Odin later displaced him. There actually isn't that much evidence for this, but it's become a popular meme among people interested in this because his name, Tyr, is actually, if you roll back all the sound changes, from the same Proto-European name as the name of Zeus or Jupiter, implying that he must once have been a very important god, or at least a god related to the sky like Zeus or Jupiter is.
But just because a Norse specialist says this, it doesn't mean that Santa Monica Studios is gonna follow in line with what experts say. But what if I show you that Cory Barlog knows about this theory of Tyr being the first Norse god?
Like all of it is like little subtle indicators.
I love it.
It helps build the mythology of Tyr being this sort of beloved god that began a lot of the Norse myth before the Aesir gods came in and kind of kicked them out.
So now we have confirmation that Cory Barlog at least knows about this theory. But now we need to know whether or not Cory implemented this theory in the God of War series or not. And of course I have to say that we'll get official confirmation once we play God of War Ragnarok and Tyr reveals to us what his origin story was. But I want to point out something very interesting. I have listened once again to all of Mimir's stories as well as the Lost Pages podcast, and nowhere does it say that Tyr is the son of Odin. Well, on the other hand, characters like Thor sometimes get called Odin's son. And I also want to point out that Mimir, being the wisest man alive and knowing a lot of things regarding the Norse pantheon, never mentions Tyr as being the son of a giant. Which makes me think these two theories are out, and we're left with a theory that says that Tyr was the first Norse god and the first ruler of the Norse pantheon. I understand this is an argument from silence, but that's the best I can do for the time being. So if he was indeed the first god to rule the Norse pantheon, where exactly did he come from? God of War Geek has proposed the idea that he came from another land. This is what I like to call the calm and reasonable theory. But I like to think that Tyr came from somewhere else, somewhere higher. And maybe this is why the artists at Santa Monica Studios chose to give Tyr an appearance that looks very much like Jesus. Now hold the phone, I'm not saying that Tyr came from Jerusalem after being crucified. All I'm saying is that Tyr and Jesus share the same archetypal character of being the hero who lays down his life for others. According to Christian theology, when Jesus was crucified, the sins of the world were laid upon him. He did this so the world would have a way to enter heaven. So in other words, Jesus died for us. In a similar way, Tyr is the only recorded deity in the God of War universe to be truly good. Instead of using his powers for destruction like other gods such as Ares or even Kratos, he used them to help humanity. His biggest achievement in the Norse pantheon was building a temple capable of traveling to other realms easily. Also, when it came to other cultures, he made sure to share his knowledge with them. And on top of that, a lot of God of War fans seem to think that Tyr will have a sacrificial death in God of War Ragnarok, but this is yet to be confirmed. So what's the theory then? Where does Tyr come from? Well, obviously I don't believe Tyr comes from Christian heaven, but there is a place in the God of War universe that shares some of the characteristics with that location, the higher plane of existence. Once again, I have to remind you that not much is known about this location. But Corey said a few years back that after Athena sacrificed herself in God of War 2, she ascended there. Then fast forward to the year 2020 and we got the Fallen God comics, which surprisingly were not about how Kratos got to Scandinavia, something we all thought. But instead it was about Kratos visiting a mysterious place where Athena and the Egyptian god Thoth reside. We still don't know what this place is, but I think it's reasonable to think this is the previously mentioned higher plane of existence. So how does Tyr fit in with this place we know very little of? Well, it gets a little complicated, but I think the first beings from the God of War universe were created by the first gods from the higher plane of existence. But something must have gone seriously wrong with their creation.
In the time before the Titans, before the gods of Olympus, a great battle was waged. The wrath of the primordials. The very beings who forged the earth. Raged out of control for an eternity.
First we have the primordials who began to fight and created the Greek pantheon. Odin and his brothers ruthlessly killed Ymir, and with his body they formed the Norse pantheon. Everywhere you look in mythology, death, war, and chaos is the main force behind their creation stories. Something that seems to oppose the tranquility and peacefulness that is associated with the higher plane of existence. That's why I believe the first gods from this realm hate their creation and wish for it to be fixed. And this is where Tyr comes in. I believe shortly after the formation of all the pantheons, one of these gods gave up his powers to dwell among his creation in the hopes of fixing it. This god took the appearance of the gods below and named himself Tyr. Shortly after, he began to heal the wounds of chaos from each pantheon by sharing with them wisdom and knowledge. His base of operations was located in Scandinavia, where many mortals brought him gifts from their homelands. Tyr continued to do his work of stopping wars and helping mortals advance their lives, but one of the lower gods grew in jealousy. Not only did Tyr have the respect of the Jotuns, but he also had the respect of the entire world, something Odin could not stand.
What could we have that Odin doesn't? He's like the king of gods.
Of the Aesir, aye. But his reach is not unlimited, and where he cannot reach, he is preoccupied with going. He's certainly tortured me enough about it over the years.
So Odin wasted no time, and with the might of Asgard on his side, they cornered Tyr and imprisoned him in an undisclosed location. Now, I know you're thinking that this isn't a theory and I have once again engaged in fan fiction writing, and you're right. But I want to show you why I think this origin story makes sense for Tyr and why it has to be included in the next game in the series. God of War Ragnarok is the last game in the Norse saga, but because the series is doing so well at the moment, I doubt Santa Monica won't make a sequel. But what will the story be about? Well, I believe the next chapter in the God of War series will be about the breaking down of all the work Tyr did to create peace between the pantheons. Up until this moment in the God of War universe, the chaos that began in all the pantheons has been contained, possibly thanks to Tyr's work. But what happens if Tyr were to die? What if Tyr's death is the event that breaks all the peace between all the pantheons, and Kratos and Atreus will be responsible for it? What could possibly come after? I think the next chapter in the God of War series might be about all the pantheons going to war with each other for ultimate control. Very similar to the ending David Jaffe had planned for the series.
You know, the high level was, and jump in on the stuff I've forgotten, but the high level was basically you kill Zeus in the first couple of minutes of God of War 3, There's a vacuum in Greek. There's a vacuum on Earth because the Greek mythology religion is in shambles. The other religions and gods rush in, Norse mythology, Egyptian mythology, to kind of take over that place now that Zeus is no longer a power. And it really becomes sort of a mashup of Greek and Egyptian and Norse mythology.
But instead of this pantheon war being caused by the destruction of Olympus, Tyr's death will be right at the center of it. The one character that was holding it all together. I don't know, I'm getting a sense that this is where Santa Monica wants to go with their story for the sequel. But what do you guys think about this theory? Do you think Tyr is a god who came from the higher plane of existence, or do you think he's simply the son of Odin? Whatever your thoughts and theories are, make sure to leave them in the comment section below. As always, I want to give a big thanks to all of my members for supporting the channel monthly. People like Phantom Knights, Solly, Stenkot, Chamis Clement, Red Boy, Geocrofts, and many more truly make sure this channel stays afloat. I would also like to thank everyone who likes and shares my videos. I know it doesn't seem like much, but trust me, it really does help put me in the algorithm. So with that said, thanks for watching, and remember, go forth in the name of Ragnarok.